People love to imagine some magnificent alien vessel cutting through the dark between stars the way a ship cuts through calm water on a Sunday afternoon. It is a beautiful picture. It is also completely wrong, and I want to show you precisely why it is wrong, not with philosophy or guesswork, but with the cold, hard mechanical truth that the universe has been enforcing since the first atom ever tried to move fast through the void. Let us start with the most fundamental misunderstanding that almost every person carries around in their head. They picture deep space as completely nothing, an absolute featureless emptiness that a fast enough machine could simply glide through without resistance, like a marble rolling across a perfectly smooth table forever. That picture is seductive and it is catastrophically false. The space between stars is not nothing. It is filled with something, and when you move fast enough through it, that something becomes one of the most mechanically destructive forces a physical machine can ever encounter. The interstellar medium is what scientists call the thin, scattered collection of particles that fills the dark between star systems. Most of it is hydrogen. Individual hydrogen atoms, just floating there, one atom here, another atom a few centimeters away, spread so thinly that it barely registers as anything at all when you think about it casually. At low speeds, these atoms are essentially irrelevant. They brush past a surface so gently that they leave no meaningful mark. But speed changes everything in this universe. Speed transforms the harmless into the catastrophic. When you push a physical object to even a modest fraction of the speed of light, those same gentle, harmless hydrogen atoms stop being gentle. From the perspective of the ship, those atoms are now incoming projectiles carrying genuine destructive energy, and they arrive in enormous numbers. Think carefully about the geometry of this. A spacecraft moving toward another star is not threading carefully between particles. It is scooping up every single atom that sits in its path. The cross-sectional area of even a modest spacecraft represents an enormous target. At 1% of the speed of light, a ship would absorb roughly 10,000 hydrogen atoms per square centimeter of its forward surface every single second. At 10% of the speed of light, the number and the energy of each impact climbs dramatically. Each hydrogen atom at those speeds carries energy comparable to a tiny high-speed bullet. Individually, each one seems like almost nothing. But you are not hitting one. You are being hit by billions upon billions of them, continuously, relentlessly, every single second, across every square centimeter of the forward hull, for decades without stopping. This is not a minor inconvenience to engineer around. This is a continuous sandblasting operation of cosmic scale. The forward surface of the hull is not just being scratched. It is being mechanically ablated away, layer by layer, atom by atom, without pause. The engineers designing this vessel cannot simply make the hull thicker because making it thicker adds mass. And adding mass means the propulsion system must work harder, and working harder means generating more heat. And more heat introduces its own completely separate catastrophic problem that I will come to shortly. You cannot win by simply armoring the ship more heavily. The sandblaster has infinite patience and the hull has finite thickness, and the universe is under no obligation to respect the engineering budget of any civilization anywhere. Now, because the problem of the hydrogen sandblaster is so severe, some clever thinkers propose that perhaps the ship could use a magnetic field to deflect incoming charged particles. And this sounds promising until you realize that hydrogen atoms in the interstellar medium are mostly neutral. They carry no electric charge. A magnetic field deflects charged particles beautifully and does essentially nothing to a neutral hydrogen atom. The neutral atom simply passes straight through the magnetic field and continues on its original path directly into the hull. Physics does not offer an exception clause for spacecraft designs that need one, so the hull is being continuously eroded from the outside. Now let us talk about what is happening inside, because the inside is producing its own completely independent catastrophic process, and the two processes together form a mechanical trap with no exit. To cross even the nearest star system, a spacecraft needs a propulsion system of staggering energy output. The distances involved are not like anything in ordinary human experience. The nearest star to our Sun, Alpha Centauri, sits at a distance of roughly 4 light-years. Even traveling at 10% of the speed of light, that journey takes 40 years. 10% of the speed of light is not something a chemical rocket can achieve. It requires something far more energetic. nuclear fusion, antimatter annihilation, or some other mechanism operating at the absolute frontier of physical energy density, these propulsion systems generate heat. Enormous, intense, sustained heat on a scale that dwarfs anything in ordinary engineering experience. On the surface of a planet, managing engine heat is uncomfortable but solvable. Air moves. Moving air carries thermal energy away from hot surfaces through a process called convection. Water can be circulated to absorb heat and radiate it away. There are physical pathways for thermal energy to escape the engine and disperse harmlessly into the surrounding environment. None of those pathways exist in deep space. The vacuum of space does not support convection because convection requires a fluid medium, and the void contains no fluid medium whatsoever. The only mechanism available for heat dissipation in a vacuum is thermal radiation, the emission of infrared light from hot surfaces. And thermal radiation, while real, is extraordinarily slow and limited in its capacity. The mathematics here are merciless. The rate at which a surface can radiate heat away depends on the surface area of the radiator and the temperature of the surface. To radiate heat fast enough to keep a high-powered interstellar propulsion system cool, you would need radiator surfaces of truly absurd physical dimensions, surfaces so large that the mass of the radiators alone would make the spacecraft mechanically impractical. And even if you built those radiators, you have now created an enormous fragile surface area exposed to the hydrogen sandblaster, eroding it continuously. Every solution in this problem generates a new problem. The engineering constraints are not adding up toward a solution. They are multiplying toward a wall. So the heat builds up. The internal temperature of the vessel climbs. Components designed to operate within specific temperature ranges begin to fail. Metals that were chosen because they remain strong at ordinary temperatures begin to soften and deform as temperatures climb beyond their design limits. Semiconductors, the computational core of any sophisticated spacecraft, fail at temperatures far lower than the structural failure point of the metal hull. Long before the hull physically melts, the electronic systems managing propulsion, navigation, life support, and communication have already been cooked into uselessness. The ship is not destroyed all at once in a dramatic explosion. It quietly fails, system by system, in the dark, over decades, far from any repair facility, with no possible rescue. Which brings us to the third mechanism. And in some ways, it is the most quietly devastating of the three because it does not announce itself dramatically. It simply accumulates. The way rust accumulates on iron left in damp air, slowly and completely inevitably. Any machine of sufficient complexity to cross interstellar space is composed of thousands of individual components, each of which has a finite operational lifespan. Rubber and polymer seals become brittle under sustained radiation exposure and temperature cycling. Metal fatigue accumulates in structural members subjected to continuous vibration from propulsion systems. Bearings wear down, filters clog. Coolant lines develop microscopic cracks that grow over time under pressure, cycling until they rupture. On Earth, these problems are managed through maintenance. Technicians inspect components regularly. Worn parts are replaced before they fail catastrophically. Supply chains exist to provide replacement components whenever they are needed. In the void between stars, none of this infrastructure exists. There is no supply chain, there is no repair depot. There is no source of replacement parts anywhere in the several light years of empty space surrounding the vessel. Every component the ship will ever have is the component it carried from the start. And the journey, even at ambitious speeds, takes not years but decades or centuries. The probability that every single critical system survives for a century of continuous operation without a single catastrophic failure is not low. It is essentially zero. A single failed pressurized coolant line releases superheated coolant into compartments it was not designed to enter. A single failed seal in a propulsion chamber exposes adjacent systems to temperatures and radiation they cannot survive. The cascade of secondary failures that follows a single primary failure in a tightly integrated system is typically swift and total. The universe does not grade on a curve. It does not award partial credit for elegant engineering. A spacecraft that is 99% functional is not a spacecraft that almost made it to another star. It is a spacecraft that failed. The void does not offer second chances or emergency services. What I want you to understand, deeply and physically, is that these three mechanisms are not three separate problems that a sufficiently advanced civilization could solve one at a time. They are three interlocking constraints that reinforce each other. Solving the erosion problem by adding more hull mass makes the heat problem worse. Solving the heat problem by adding more radiator surface makes the erosion problem worse. Solving both by reducing speed makes the mechanical rot problem worse because now the journey takes longer and components have more time to fail. The constraints do not relax as engineering sophistication increases. They tighten because they are grounded in the foundational physical laws of this universe, laws that apply identically to any physical machine regardless of which civilization built it. The scale of the void is not an invitation. It is a physical enforcement mechanism. Nature has arranged the laws of thermodynamics, the properties of the interstellar medium, and the behavior of complex mechanical systems in such a way that crossing those vast distances in any physical machine is not merely difficult, it is mechanically self-defeating. The machine that could make the journey destroys itself, making it not because the engineers were not clever enough, but because the universe has set the cost of crossing that void precisely at a level that no mechanical system can pay. That is the real answer to why alien ships do not arrive. Not because there are no aliens, not because the universe is empty, but because the universe has enforced its own scale with a set of physical laws so precise and so unforgiving that the journey between stars is not a problem waiting for a clever enough solution. It is a fundamental constraint on what physical machines can do, written into the deepest structure of how energy and matter behave. And that, I find, is one of the most profound things the physics of our universe has ever told us.